Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all. First and foremost, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to our special lecture today. This lecture is jointly organized by Center for Civilizational Dialogue, UMCCD, and also International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies, IAIS Malaysia, with the interesting title, Pre-Intellect Human Communication, Speaking from the Heart and from the Imaginary. This special lecture will explore the concept of communication beyond the realm of conscious thought and intellect. The focus is on the significance of speaking from the heart, which involves a deeper emotional connection, and from the imaginary, which involves accessing the power of the imagination to communicate effectively. This lecture seeks to provide a fresh perspective on human communication and its potential to bring about deeper understanding and connection between individuals and communities. For that, we are very lucky to have with us today Dr. Eric Winkle, visiting fellow IAIS Malaysia, and also University Malaya Center for Civilizational Dialogue. But before we begin, please allow me to read a brief profile of Dr. Winkle. Dr. Eric Winkle is an esteemed Islamic scholar with a specific focus on the teaching of Ibn Arabi. Over the course of 23 years, he diligently studied the Ibn Arabi magnum opus, Futuhat al-Makkiyah. Dr. Winkle was born in Manhattan, Kansas, and began his academic journey at the University of Delaware, where he participated in the freshman honor program for a year. In 1982, he earned his BA in religion from Haverford College in Pennsylvania, followed by a Master in South Asia Study from the University of Pennsylvania in 1985. In 1988, he completed his PhD in Government and International Studies at the University of South Carolina. Throughout its distinguished career, Dr. Winkle has had numerous positions, including serving as a foreign faculty member at the National College of Art, Lahore, Pakistan, and as a senior Fulbright scholar at Institut Agama Islam Negeri Sumatera Utara, Medan, Indonesia. He spent several years as a senior research fellow here at the IAIS Malaysia, during which time he explored connection between Ibn Arabi's vision and mathematics and physics developed after 19th century. The mystical, strange world of Ibn Arabi described can now be read as the strange realm of quantum physics and higher dimensional and fractal dimensional topography. Since 2012, Dr. Winkle has been dedicating his life as a community scholar, translating the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, intended to be the first complete as well as most accurate and contemporary translation and commentary into English of this masterwork. It is a project of some 17 years. Author of book and monograph of Ibn Arabi and the new science and article examining Ibn Arabi's vision in light of contemporary mathematical physics, Dr. Eric Winkle is uniquely poised to connect this world, striving to make the teaching of Ibn Arabi as accessible to a wider audience. Thus, without further ado, I would like to call upon Dr. Eric Winkle to discuss on our topic today. Please welcome, Dr.
So good morning, everyone. So it's so good to be here. Thank you very much. And I wanted to, you'll see how very far that we've gone from the intellect when I begin. So you'll see that for yourself. So let me give a little bit of background. So this idea of pre-intellect is talking from a different place in the human being, and it's talking a different way in a different mode. So the background is I started working on the Futuhat al-Makkiyah very early on, and then recently, the last decade, just did only translation and commentary of this book. And this work is almost 800 years old, and it was really written for us now, and yet it's never been translated or have a commentary in any language ever. So it's been my calling to address that and to be the one who conveys what the message of the Futuhat al-Makkiyah. And that message is one that we'll look at today in a few stories. So let me begin to tell a story. So this is also going to be very unusual, and so let's just give me a few moments of quiet and silence, and then we'll take it from there. Just give it a moment of silence. it's very important to calm down the brain and to get the brain waves to slow down a bit. Hear things more accurately with the heart and the imagination. So let's start with a story, and for the intellects, this one that ships. Yeah, we'll start with a story, and this one is one that there's, for the intellect, I'll just let everyone know that this is all chapter and verse. They're all references and citations of where the story comes from, and where the elements of the story come from. But I'll leave aside the citations, leave aside the references, and speak directly to you, and it will be for you to say whether this is understandable or not. And so, but it won't be intellectual, so the intellect might be somewhat frustrated. So let's start the story. So this is the story that is in the work that I'm translating and elucidating. This is a central story which is throughout the book, which is about 10,000 pages, so it's almost everywhere. And the story starts with a treasure. So the thing about a treasure is that a treasure is not contained by itself. You can't see a treasure. You can only see a treasure if there's a treasure chest. So a treasure without a treasure chest can't see herself, can't see where she is, can't see what her boundaries are, because there are no boundaries. And this treasure is precious, but there's nothing to compare to. So when there's nothing to compare to, there are no boundaries to see. There's no way to encompass and comprehend. So comprehend means to grab something around. So in English, comprehend, to grab something around. So it can't be comprehended, which means it can't be understood. So this treasure, which can't be comprehended, sighs. She gives a sigh because she can't be comprehended. She can't be understood. She can't be recognized. She can't be enveloped. And so this treasure creates a treasure chest. So the moment you say treasure, we know we need to find a treasure chest. So this treasure chest is created to contain the treasure. So the treasure in the treasure chest is limited now. It's limited and contained and embraced by the treasure chest. And so the first thing that happens when this happens is that the treasure chest, which is a being of light, this being of light is the first thing created. This being of light looks and sees the treasure. It says, there is no reality but you. There is nothing but you. There's no reality. And then the treasure says to the treasure chest, and you are the one who will let me see my reality. You are the one who will convey my reality. So the two of them look at each other. One says there is no reality. The other says, you are the conveyor. So that's the first story. And if we can, let's share the first screen and look at the website. And this is the website that for me, this visual, this illustration on the website helps me see that first place where the story is taking place. So this website is thefutuhat.com. And it's a new one. It shows what's happening with this very special time when these stories are being told. And they're reaching communities across the world. So this picture there on this home page is of this mist. And this mist is from the sun. When the treasure says, I'm a treasure. I'm a treasure, and I can't be seen. I can't be comprehended. So she sighs. And a sigh is wet and warm and moist and creates a cloud, creates a mist. So this mist then is where the treasure chest comes into being, is brought into being. So the treasure and the treasure chest. The first sentence of this story, of this universe, of this place is there is no reality. And you are the one conveying it. So now we look at what happens next. So the first story is done. The second story happens when the treasure chest, there's a new development that's going to go on. And this new development is there's going to be another place, a new place and a new time. So this is the once upon a time. This story, once upon a time, there was a place, there was a time, and the place and the time were inside a well. So inside a well, a circular well, which has stones that are placed on the side so that the earth doesn't collapse. And on this well, there's a lip. So, as I say, this is all chapter and verse. So later on, if you want to know what the lip is called in Arabic, there's a lip. And this is a lip that when you pull the rope of a bucket, the rope doesn't rub against the earth, but rubs against the stone lip. And so in this well, there is another time and another place. So the treasure chest looks at this well and says, and knows that he's meant to go into this well. He's meant to dive into this well and plunge into the water. And where it ends, no one knows, and he doesn't know. But he's told he has to take the plunge. And so, but before he takes the plunge, the treasure says, am I not the one who loves you? The treasure chest said, yes, you are. And then she says, will you remember that? Or are you going to forget? He says, how can I forget? There's nothing but you. There's no reality but you. How could I forget that? And she says, but you will forget. And he jumps into the well, plunges into what we call time and space. He plunges into the world of time and space. And in the world of time and space, there's no memory. There's no thinking. Suddenly everything is forgotten. Everything that he had seen before, outside the world, he now can no longer see and no longer remember. But he knows that there's something missing, that there's something that he's forgotten. So in this one story, he's always outside of society. He always doesn't belong. The things that everyone thinks are important are unimportant to him. And the things that he knows are important, he can't find them anywhere. So someone is sent to tell him that you are not going insane. That this experience that you're having of being so alone, so separated, you are not going insane. And this is who you are. And you have to remember who you are. So he remembers who he is. And he remembers where he came from before he jumped into the well. And when he remembers where he came from, he hears, this is why I created you. So that's the second story. And so we can now look at share the screen to see the bridge of life. So this is the part of the third story. So the first story, when the two meet each other in the mist. The second story, when the one goes through the well, plunges through the well. So the well is a channel. It's a channel, it's deep, and at the end, there's light. So plunging through this channel, and at the end, there's light. And you can't stay back there. You have to jump. You have to come through the channel. So he comes through the first channel into this room. And then there's another channel. There's more pressure that builds up. And this pressure that builds up, we'll call it the womb. And in this womb, pressure builds up, and this channel opens up. And when the channel opens up, there's light at the end. And one can't stay back. So he can't stay back. So he goes through the channel and goes to the light. And then he emerges into a world, into a new kind of. And then at the end of life, there'll be another womb. And this one is called the grave. And this grave will be one which is embracing and has pressure. And from that, in that grave with pressure, there will be a moment when a channel opens up. And there'll be light at the end of that tunnel. And he'll go through that channel and emerge into the light. So right now there's been 3 channels. One is the well, the second is the womb, the third is the grave. And there'll be more after that. But that middle passage from the womb to the grave is called the bridge. So the bridge is the bridge of our life. We look at this bridge, we look at this bridge of our life, and we see that it takes us across the back of nature, the back of a dark nature. And we have to go across it. We don't want to drown in there. We don't want to fall and crash and be destroyed. So we need this bridge to take us across the back into the gate where the light is. And this is called our bridge of light. It begins from when we leave the womb, and it takes us through the grave to the gate. And in each moment, we remember being in a channel, and we remember exiting the channel. So this bridge that we have is the bridge of our life, and it's of our design. And when we're in the grave, and in the box called the grave, so we come from a box called the womb, go to a box called the grave. When we're in that box, then we will see in front of us the bridge of our life. So what had been behind us from womb to grave now stretches forward from grave to the gate of the garden. And so this bridge stretching from the gate to the gate is the bridge of our life. It's of our design. And we will immediately recognize it. I know that one. I know that bridge. I know that life. And it's my life. And it will be a beauty. It'll be beautiful. And we'll want to carry ourselves along that path, along that bridge. And so when we move along that bridge, we'll be able to move with ease if we have worked on this bridge, if we have made our design beautiful. So we make our design beautiful, this bridge, and it's really a bridge. So begin to really see this bridge. And there are gaps and hooks on this bridge. And those gaps and hooks are ones that will slow us down when we're trying to get to the gate. We're trying to get to the gate of the garden where we see the light. And as we go, there'll be hooks that pull us back. And these hooks that pull us back are things that we need to fix. We need to smooth them. We need to make right. We can do that, and other people can do that. We can realize that one of those gaps, one of those hooks was when I did something to someone which hurt them. And that hurt that I caused is a hook. Slow me down on this bridge. It will make my bridge not as beautiful as it could be. So that person has the power and capacity to cover that hook over and say, I forgive him. And so that's why when we are at the graveside, we forgive everything. We tell the person who has passed, we say, we forgive you everything. There's no debt that you owe me. There's no money debt that you owe me. There's no emotional debt that you owe me. That you are clear. There are no claims against you. everything is forgiven. And then that person's bridge, all of these hooks become covered over. And they become covered over with a substance, which is called propolis. This is what the bees use in their honeycomb. The propolis gets covered over. And we ask for that propolis. And I'll give you that reference at one point later. But we ask for that propolis. We ask the one who created us, who guides us, to give us propolis on all of the hooks, to forgive us and cover over. Because forgiveness is covering over. So forgiveness means to cover something over, and it's to cover these hooks over. So that can be done after I'm dead. Someone can cover one of those hooks after I die. And while I'm alive, I have a chance to find out what I've done which has offended someone. What can I do to have it covered over? How can I make it right? And I can make it right internally, interiorly, and I can make it right in the exterior as well. So I want to live a life where I make things right for myself and for the others. And when I can do that, my bridge is beautiful. And if I'm fortunate, I'll be able to see my bridge right now, today. And I can see the bridge. And I can see what's valuable, what makes this bridge beautiful. And I can see what makes this bridge treacherous. And I have to be very careful in these places. And I have to change these things. And I have to inflect these things. I have to take things and change them into good. So that's the third story. And the bridge of life. So now we'll look at the next slide. The next slide would be the next video. We'll look at a fourth story. We'll tell the story again, but in a different mode. So we'll tell the story now in the mode of language and breath. So the way that we remember what we've forgotten is through speech. And speech is something that is based on breath, and breath is based on supreme compassion. So when you are compassionate for someone, you breathe to them. And we talk about being a breath of relief. And breath is what relieves us, what soothes us, what gives us empathy, and we share in the breath. So when breath is shared, when you breathe together, you realize that you're breathing one air, and you're processing it and taking it in and breathing out into one air. So where does that breath come from? Where do the winds come? Where does air come from? Well, being comes from one place. Being comes from one place. Speaking comes from one place. Hearing comes from one place. Breathing comes from one place. So all speech is speech that comes from one place and then gets differentiated in our bodies and in our throats and in the mouth. So the first place this breath comes from the lungs. The breath is going to come to make sounds. So it will come from the lungs, and then we'll start going out, coming this way here. So the first place is the lungs, and this is the sound. The sound. And that sound is the first sound we heard in the first story. So the first sound that ever came was the treasure saying, I'm a treasure, but I have no treasure chest. I'm a treasure, but I can't be comprehended because there's no treasure chest to comprehend me. And there's no treasure chest to understand me. And there's no treasure chest to love me. So that's the very first sound. So from the lungs, the very first sound that's produced is a. And this ah sound, first two letters. And the letters are the building blocks and the guides of what we are going to say. So the first one, second one, H sound, and then a soft and then it'll go through the mouth and through all of the parts of the mouth. And each time it will be differentiated. So the first differentiation will be the gutturals. So that could be like that. We go that's a guttural that comes from here. Another one will be palatal. And another one will be dental, for teeth. We can take duh, bring it from the teeth. And when you use labials, labials, the lips will be used. So the last place that the sound is modified is the lips. And the ones with the labials are ma, ba. So these are the last sounds. And then oo. So oo, ma, ba are the last labial sounds. And so the first sound is the next one is an ah sound. And the last one is an oo sound. So the sound of the cosmos is oo, oo. And this sound is coming from the one being, the one supremely compassionate being, is coming from the treasure. And the treasure chest is the one that creates the box, the voice box. The voice box is the treasure chest, so that the ooh will be able to be heard. She can't hear herself until there's a voice box which modulates and differentiates the breath. So the one breath is coming from the one place to our place, and then is exited through the mouth. And then once it exits, it never ends, because it exits as a wave, and waves never end. So if you go to the ocean, you say, where does the wave end? Well, doesn't it end at the shore? No, because it then goes back up. So waves never end. So once a sound comes out, it never ends. And we are the letters and the words of this divine being. And the letters and the words will never disappear, and they will never end. And so we will never disappear, and we will never end. Because we are treasure chests that are necessary for the treasure to be embraced and comprehended. So the fourth story is, how can you learn who you are, and what you are, and why you were created? And the quick answer, the end of the story is, you were created to be a treasure chest for the treasure. So that's the end of the story. So we'll look at the next slide and we'll tell the story. So I'll just read this one. This is directly from he's talking about the shadow play. And he's talking about children who are watching the shadow play. And he's talking about, in this setting, what would happen is that the actors, the shadow play actors and the artists, they would go from village to village. And probably our grandparents can remember this. Whatever country we came from, there was someone like this, our great-grandparents would have that. These wandering minstrels, these wandering artists, they would go from place to place. They would sit down in a village, and they would put up a screen, and they would do a play. And often this would be a shadow play. So this happened, the stories that were told, that these wandering people would do, they would tell these stories. So my father in Estonia had that when he was a kid. So it's everywhere. And it's quite universal. So this story that would be told would be mainly for the kids. It would be entertainment. So you've probably seen someone will also bring a little merry-go-round. Kids would jump on there and they go around. Someone might have a little horse. That would be the way that something is conveyed. So the kids are all being entertained and having fun. And the adults are saying, oh, this is just play and amusement. Ooh, this is just play and amusement. But there are some of the audience who will say they're listening to the same story that the children are listening to. They know what the story really is telling. They know it's valid. They know what it means. So if you want to recognize the truth of what I am hinting at with this issue, consider the shadow play and its images, and the one who is the narrator for these images shown before the little children, who are sitting away from the covering curtain, drawn down between them, and the players moving these images, and the narrator speaking about them. So there'll be a play, there'll be puppets, shadows, and the narrator will stand in the front, and the narrator will tell the stories. The matter is just this way with the images of the world. The people, most of them, are these little ones we give a clear explanation to, so they will recognize Wednesday is coming to them. The Bernardi has just said right here, this shadow play, or this puppet play, or this acting play. It's just the way it is with the world. This world is a stage, and of course Shakespeare said that too. We're all actors on this stage. We come in and we play our parts, and we leave. But Shakespeare's already talking about the play as the world. And so this world is a shadow play. There are puppets, and there are shadows. We're all of us shadows, and we're all of us shadows cast against a curtain. So we're all cast against a curtain. So begin to think about, where is this curtain? Because in a shadow play, which is three-dimensional, the shadows are two-dimensional. It's easy to see that there's a screen. It's easy to see that there's a screen. But in 3 dimensions, it becomes more confusing. Where is the screen? So think about that as we go through. And most of the people are in this world, and they're not understanding the play. They're not understanding what this world is telling them. They're not understanding the signs, the verses. They're not understanding what the puppets are telling them and what the narrator is telling them. So they're just watching and they're entertained and they're saying, this is fun, this is not fun, this part. And they're going from one to another. And that's fine. Some of the people are looking at this world and they are seeing what the meaning is. They are seeing what this world means. So they're seeing the play and they are knowing what the play is. Thus the little ones in that sitting are delighted and enjoying the play, while the heedless adults are taking it as mere play and amusement. So the adults are sitting around this play and saying, oh, these are just a bunch of puppets. It's mere play and amusement. And those same adults are in this world and say, oh, it's dunya. It's just play and amusement. It doesn't mean anything. They're heedless. They're uplifted, neglectful. They have not understood that this world is communicating to us. So instead of listening and taking the meaning, it's saying it's just play and amusement. While the ones who know, these few people, are crossing over, interpreting this world as a lesson to be learned, and are aware that God raised this only as a parable. So the play is a parable. And the parable is a way of conveying meaning. This is why there comes out in the first act a person called a describer, and he gives a sermon glorifying God and declaring him majestic. Then he speaks about the characters, one after the other, who are the images that would emerge after him from behind this curtain. So the narrator comes out, and he's going to tell you that this dunya, this world, is a play, and that God is to be glorified and declared majestic. And that in this play there will be different characters. There'll be this person, there'll be the good Samaritan will be there, and the bad person will be there. The treacherous person will be here. And someone will come out who lies to you. Someone will come out who's always honest. Someone will come out who is your friend if things are good. Someone will come out who's your friend only when things are good. If they're bad, is no longer your friend. Some people will do this, some people will do that. So this narrator is describing the cast of characters. And they're all here for a reason. All the characters are not good actors. They're not all bad actors either. It's a mix. It's all mixed. And one of the actors can say, oh, I don't want to be the bad guy, I want to be the good guy. I want to be the good guy, I want to be the bad guy. Can't help it. You're an actor in a play. This is your role. Then the group is given to learn that God made this as a parable for his creatures, so they will cross over it as a lesson, and they will learn that the matter of the world with God is like these images, with their being moved and stirred, and that this curtain is a veil over the secret of destiny and predestination, which operates throughout the creation. The curtain, which is hosting the play, is predestined, is destined. So the role that you are going to play is already there. You have your role. And the curtain has its texture. So the bumpy parts, the difficult parts, are already going to be there. They are there. The curtain will have difficult parts and easy parts. Some people will be mostly in the difficult parts. Some people will be mostly in the easy parts. But where they are is already fixed. The curtain is fixed. How they navigate that curtain is in their capacity. And despite this, all of this, the unmindful ones are taking it as mere play and amusement, and it is his exalted works, the ones who take their religion as mere play and amusement. Then the describer disappears. He is in the place of the first created being among us, and it is Adam, upon whom be peace. And when he disappears, his disappearance, hidden from us, is to his cherisher, behind a curtain of his unseen. And God speaks the truth, and who is the guide to the way. So, this shadow play, this world that we're in, there's a light, and the light is a projector. A projection of light comes from a projector. This projector shines this light, and the light hits the puppet. The puppet is three-dimensional. It has front, the back, sides, and it also has color. The puppets are all painted. So the puppets are painted and three-dimensional. They have backs and sides and feet. And the light hits them and hits the puppet and casts a shadow against the curtain. The shadow is two-dimensional and has no color. It's black and white. So the shadow is hitting the curtain. It loses its volume, its front and back, and it loses its color. So the world that we are in right now is missing two very important dimensions or elements, character. And so it's very important to find out what's missing, what's been missing. So if I'm a puppet and light is cast upon me, and if I'm three-dimensional and have color, and then a shadow is cast. So who am I? Where am I? Well, most of us very naturally understand ourselves to be the shadow. So this is me, I'm the shadow right here. And your shadow is cast right here. Your shadow is cast right here. So these are shadows in this curtain. And most of us think that that's who we are. And we can move as far as we want that way, as far as we want that way, as far as we want that way. But there's no behind and there's no in front. So remember we're talking about dimensions, so let's go up one more. So 2 dimensions is flat, has no front and back. It just has this way, and this. And then the puppet is 3-dimensional, has a front and a back and sides. So right now, I have front and back and sides. Front and back and sides. So if I go like this, you see I have the back, So I'm not just a facade. I'm not just a flat image. I have a back. And I have depth. And so if I have depth, that means I have meaning. That's another story. So if this is a shadow in a shadow play, right? This is a shadow in a shadow play, 3 dimensions, then my puppet is somewhere else. So I can't see my puppet. You can't see my puppet. You can only see my shadow. So what does my puppet look like? The reason I'm here is to find out what my puppet looks like and to find out who I am. So let me begin to think about what my puppet might be. That puppet will have color and volume, but I have color and volume, so there must be something else. There must be something behind that puppet, behind that volume. And there is. And what is behind that, so when we say something is coloring something, so we say colored, we say coloratura, we say something has been, my experience has been colored by my previous traumatic experience, or my previous happy experience colors the way I look at the world. So you see how colored works in the language? And we talked about I have rose-colored glasses. I look at everything through glasses which make everything rose and pretty. So that's coloring. I'm coloring my world. So my experiences color my experiences. Color, what does it mean in that? I think to me, we could say meaning. That my experience colors the way I treat you. Or my experience gives meaning to the way I treat you. So that's color. It means meaning. And then I have volumes. Okay, if my puppet has more than volume, what's more than volume? Well, we said depth, so we have depth. When you say something is deep, depth, you're saying something is meaningful. So meaning is in this other place. The puppet contains meaning. And when the light hits the puppet with meaning and shape, the shadow is cast and loses meaning. So now the shadow has lost its meaning. So we are shadows on a curtain, and we need to find our meaning, because the meaning is not visible to our eyes. So this shadow looks at that shadow, and they can't see meaning, because meaning gets lost to the eye. We have to look at the puppet to find meaning. So how do we look at the puppet to find meaning? So I tell these shadows on a two-dimensional curtain, I say, well, this is a curtain that is casting these shadows. These shadows are on this curtain. And you need to find out who you are. And the shadow says, I'm right here. This is who I am. Can't you see me? Sure, I can see you. But I can't see who you mean. I can't see who you really are. And they'll say, well, how do you know that I'm not just this? And I'll say, I know that because I've seen the puppet. And I've seen your puppet. And it has color. And it has depth. And it has meaning. And you don't have color and depth and meaning. There's something missing. So that's how I know that there's more to you. And so they say, well, how can I find that shadow? And I say, well, you just have to leave the curtain. You just have to go off the curtain and look towards the puppet. So what do you mean, look towards the puppet? I'm looking this way. I'm looking that way. I'm looking every single way there is to look. And I can't see any puppet. I can't see any end. If I walk that direction, I'll never come to an end. Never come to the end of the world. I'll never come to the end. And if I go to outer space and go this way, I'll never come to the end. There's no end. It'll still come all the way around in trillions of years later. If I go into the earth, there's no end there. I don't come to the bottom. I go through the earth and out to outer space again. So where am I supposed to go to find this puppet? I'll have to say, look inside. I am looking inside. There's nothing inside. Look inside. Look inside. And if they have a moment where they can look outside of the curtain into their puppet. That's what they do. Suddenly they'll say, and they'll say, I'm off the curtain. And they'll be off the curtain, and they'll be very, where am I? Because the things that were solid and they thought were real are, they just disappear like that. And then they see the puppet. And then they see the puppet and they say, where's the light coming from? I want to see the light. So they look towards the light and they're blinded. That's why we have the song, Blinded. The light is a veil. And you say, I want to see behind the light. What's behind the light? And we're told, even when we're at the puppet's place, we're told you can't see behind the light. Because you need light to see. And if there's no light, you won't be able to see. So the unseen is behind the light. And the reason that the light can't, that what's behind the light can't be seen is because that's the nature of who she is. She is inaccessible, unseen, and always infinite, never ending. And that's why she needed to have and wanted to have a treasure chest so that her treasure could be contained, comprehended, embraced, enfolded, enveloped, loved. And so that's why the play was designed and created. And that's why the world was designed and created. And that's why the cosmos was designed and created. And that's why you were designed and created. So that's the end of the story. So, the puppets in this, when you have a shadow play, the puppets are in a box. The first box that they're taken out of is called the womb. And the box, they're not put back in the same box, in the same suitcase. So these traveling actors, they don't put the puppets in the same suitcase. They take them out of the suitcase called womb, and they put them back in a suitcase called third. And so that's all we need to know why we're here, to know why there's a play, to know who we are and all that. That's all we really need to know. And the little kids understand that. And a few of the people understand it. The adults are saying this is their play. So Harvey says they take their religion, which is why you are created, who created you, and what you are to do. That's religion. That's what religion is. Who you are, who created you, what you are to do. And they take that, which is this world, which is our teacher, which is our religion, and they take it as play and amusement. So, we did say in the first story that this story took place somewhere else. And it's a where that has no where. And it's a time that has no time. It's once upon a time before there was time. And once upon a place before there was a place. So we call this outside time, outside place. It's the well where we are when we are strangers to space and time. He says, writes this poem. Verify with your intellect if you are able to think. You can, so you know this already, but your heart knows this, but your intellect doesn't. So use your intellect to verify this. Understand this with your intellect as well. And then you will be someone who has integrated the heart and the intellect. The mind and the heart will be integrated. Verify with your intellect if you are able to think. Origin is a negative of a negative, positive of a positive. Let's do a little bit of math here. -2 times -3 is -2 times -3. I hope it's a positive 6. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a positive is a positive. So, when you look in the mirror, and you look at your image in the mirror, it's you, it's not you, and it's not you. So when it's not you, it's a negative times a negative, it's you. So what's not you is you. So negative times a negative, positive. So verify yourself that our origin is a negative of a negative and a positive of a positive. The matter that is strangest is that I have never not been outside of time. So he's saying, the poet is saying, I've never not been outside of time. So in the curtain, with the shadow, he says, I've never only been in the curtain. I've never not been outside of the curtain. I've always been in my puppet with the light coming directly from the light projector. I've always been there. And I've always been there in the curtain. But never not been outside of time. And I am that I am, myself, despite this, a new sight in Zat. Zat is the who, the she that I was speaking of. In the first story, the Zat is the treasure. And the treasure chest looks at the treasure and says there's no reality. So I am that I am myself, despite this, a new sight in Zat. A new treasure chest for the treasure. Every moment there's a new treasure chest in the poet for the treasure. Every moment a new treasure chest for the treasure to see herself, to have her treasure embraced, enveloped, enveloped, and yes, your cherisher is a sight of being. And with who, there is nothing except who. And no past coming past. And no future that is to come. So there's no past which is passing away. And there's no future which is to come. Because he has never not been outside. I think that was the rest. Oh, okay, and then that's the rest of the picture. And so these are the children of the little ones. When they look at the world play, they know very well who they're seeing. And they know very well why they are there. And this is what the treasure wants. The treasure wants the treasure chest to be receptive, open, and showing who she is. And then the treasure chest is delighted with the treasure. The treasure is delighted with the treasure chest. And that's why they were created, and they're doing exactly what they are meant to do. So.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much, Dr. Winkle, for your enlightening presentation on this topic. Now, I would like to open the session for the Q&A. So anybody interested in asking questions to Dr. Winkle throughout our Zoom meeting as well as FB Live, please leave your question there and we read it to Dr. Winkle. Is there any question already? Okay, maybe we start with the physical participant here. Please.
So my first question is, what if it is very uncomfortable and difficult to look at the puppet and to look inwards? And there's so much, there's a lot of darkness that conceals you from actually looking at the puppet directly.
Yes, to see the puppet, when the shadows are told, when someone says to them, look at your puppet, find your puppet, there's going to be a lot of resistance, and there are a lot of resistance for many reasons. One of the resistances comes from the intellect. So the intellect says, has spent a long time of life trying to understand the shadow play as a curtain, as what's happening on the curtain. And as beginning to realize that if I can control things, then I can satisfy what I need. I can get what I need if I can control things. And so the intellect has taught us that control is important, that we need to have more, and that we need to hold on to what we have. We need to isolate ourselves, separate ourselves, become fortresses. And there are many reasons why the intellect is absolutely true in saying that. There are many, many people who do need to make a fortress because, but we want to also know a fortress against what. And so it's difficult to look for the puppet. So from this perspective here is that everyone is where they're meant to be. So there's a time for everything. And the intellect can make things happen kind of at any time. So you can sort of learn your multiplication tables when you're 6 years old or 8 years old or 25 years old. You can learn them, and you can learn them somewhat quickly, and there are ways to do that. But to learn who your puppet is not something that can be done like that. It takes a lot of effort, energy, intention has to be there, and we have to have help along the way. We have to have people helping us, and the beings that are helping us along the way. So it's a very difficult process for everyone, and it's one that it's easier to avoid. It's easier to put it off, and there are many reasons why it can't be put aside. It's not my time yet to live. It's not my time to live. But there is going to become a time. You want to find who you are. Go deep inside. Find who you are, what your meaning is. And one of the things that the narrator of the shadow play tells us, so what we look at these narrators, they're the guides for us. They're the ones who guide us and send us messages and send us words, statements, and wisdom. And they tell us that what is behind the puppet, the light that's coming to the puppet, is pure goodness. It's pure mercy, kindness, goodness. So when the shadows are having trouble on the curtain, it's not because the light is bad or that the light is giving them this trouble. They're having troubles because the curtain itself has texture, has difficulties, has easy pass, has difficult pass. The light itself is pure goodness and mercy. And so if we can hear the narrator tell us that, we can watch this play without being destroyed by it. We can say, look at this play, when that person betrays that person, it's so sad, it makes me so angry, it makes me so disappointed. But I know that in the end, there was a reason for this to happen. It was creating a bridge, and that bridge will become a beautiful bridge. So in the end, our return will be to the gate of that garden, and the light will guide us to that gate of the garden. And in the meantime, there's going to be these difficulties, and there's going to be this play which has terrible injustices in it. And watching these terrible injustices. But the poet tells us that there's never been a time when I've not been outside. So we always can see the end of the play, the beginning of the play, and that the play is a circle, and the circle always comes around. So this is what gives us the courage to look deep within. Because the guides, the ones who have seen that place, they've seen that, and they come back and they say, I'll tell you, the light is beautiful, the light is good. So when you're at the well, you have to plunge into the well. The only way you can plunge into the well is that the one next to you who cherishes you and said, am I not your cherisher? And am I not the one who loves you? That one, because she loves you, he jumps into the well. because he knows that it's what is good for her and that he's a treasure chest for this treasure. So he jumps in. And then at the womb, the baby doesn't want to come out either. The baby said it would be nice to stay here for a long time. I got all my needs met and all the food's coming. But the baby's getting bigger and bigger. And the mother is losing more and more nutrients to this baby. So it becomes unsustainable. So there's no such thing as sustainable growth. I'm figuring something. There is no sustainable growth. You got to leave the womb. The womb has got to leave. And it's difficult, and it's tight, and there's a channel, and you don't know what's on the other side. So what makes you say, I'm going to go through this and look at what's on the other side? And some babies don't make it through. Many babies do make it through, and they get pushed in a way. But they get pushed, and then they come and they see the light. And if they're very fortunate, the one who has pushed through them looks at them and says, I'm your mother. Am I not the one who loves you? But not everyone has that. Sometimes it will be, what is this thing that came out of my body, and I'm exhausted, and I don't think I can care for this. But sometimes that happens. And then then the grandmother will come and say, your mother couldn't love you, but it may take some time. Somewhere else it may come. So somehow they'll be loved. And then that was it. That's why I went through the womb. That's why I was born. And then when we're in the grave, for those who've learned what they need to learn, their grave will be a comfortable place. But there'll be pressure there. And they'll want to go on. And what will push them on, let's see, there's light at the end of that time. So this is what we remember. It's difficult to see the puppet. But the ones who have seen the puppet will tell you, they'll come back and say, I've been to the mountain. I've been to the mountaintop, and I'll tell you what it's like. And so we were in an institute in London. One of the students was asking about kind of these questions, and I was thinking, well, I've been to the mountaintop, and there are people who have been to the mountaintop, and they've been to their puppet, they've seen the puppet, and they've seen the light directly hit the puppet. And they've seen from the puppet's point of view and the light's point of view, they've seen the shadows on the curtain. And they'll tell you this and they'll tell you that. So she said, is there anyone like that right now that we can ask that question to? And the answer is yes, there are people like that right now we can ask that question to. Thanks for
Okay, thank you, Dr. Winkle. I think we got another question coming from Zoom.
Okay.
Can you scroll up a little bit? Okay, that question. Okay, I will read to you. Regarding the three channels, bridges of life you described earlier, are there parallel with Rumi's concept of spiritual evolution, where we transform symbolically from mineral go up to plants, animal, human, then the angelic realm of, and so on?
Yeah, so this is the three channels. The bridge of life it's not an evolution. It's learning meaning. So the meaning that you learn when you were 5 years old, 25 years old, and 35 years old, all of those meanings are equally important, equally meaningful. So there's no spiritual evolution in the stories that I can tell you. There's no spiritual evolution. Right now, I am mineral, plant, animal, and human being. I'm that way right now. And actually the mineral part of me is the one that is the best screen. So this curtain, let's just bring it right out. The curtain is Mother Earth. So the curtain that we are in is Mother Earth. We all belong to Mother Earth. We are all in Mother Earth. And so we are in Mother Earth as minerals. So we are ourselves on Mother Earth. So when you moisten your skin, rub it, make it warm, smell it, you'll know what you're smelling. You're smelling Mother Earth. So we are Mother Earth. And that means that we are the stream of Mother Earth. So there are intervals between us, but there's a fabric, there's one fabric that is the curtain that we're all on. So if we look at those shadows, we say, you shadows, you're all on the same curtain. We say, okay, this person's so far away, this person's close to me, this person's far away. So no, you're on the same fabric, you're on the same curtain. You're all linked to each other. If this shadow has trouble, it's linked to this other shadow. How do you say that you're so far away? So, the same way with this, we are linked to Mother Earth. And so we are mineral. So the minerals that we have are from Mother Earth and are Mother Earth, and they will stay in Mother Earth. So when I'm ready to travel to the next channel, my body, even if there's one molecule or one atom, that one carbon atom will be my mineral. Always have existence. Plants means growing, so when I grow, that's plant life. And then when I move with intention, that's animal. So animals are able to move with intention. Plants move by growing. Animals move by wanting to go somewhere. And then humans, the human being is the one who is a curtain for the divine names. So the divine names play in the curtain of the human being. So if someone is a human being, they are a puppet, which is able to cast a shadow, which is able to take a divine name and do something for it. So this, in this imagery here, we have a membrane here in the middle, let's say, it's a membrane, and that's the puppet. And then the light hits the membrane here, but can't go beyond it, illuminate it. And on this side of the membrane would be cast a shadow, which is where we are. So the light projector is here, we are here, and in between is a membrane. And the membrane are the divine names. They face the light, and they face us. So they face the light, and they face us. So the human being is one who faces the divine name, and is directly a reflection, an image of a divine name. So when the divine is able, so the human being is a treasure chest. If the human being is a treasure chest, that means that they have the treasure inside. And when they're opened, the treasure can see himself.
Okay. Then another question, this one from our Facebook page. Salam, how is knowledge is not an act of creation, but an act of reaffirmation in relation to discovering and uncovering?
Can we do this next one?
Yes.
Let's do that. Let's do this next one first.
Okay.
Is the language of God?
So you want to answer this one first? Yeah. Okay. So the question is the language of the heart the same as the language when we dream, where even though we have different languages, for example, we can communicate with anyone, even with animal?
Yes, that's the language of the heart. But the language of the heart takes place before the letters are formed. So the language of the heart is the first place that the sound comes from. So it's the breath. That breath comes, and then before it goes through all of this, it exists. It's there. And this is the place where the heart and this is called the special face of the true, which is in every created being. The special face of the true, which is in every created being, is our personal curtain. So you could call it our personal curtain. It's where this shining, radiant brilliance, which is the play, and every moment of the play, it's where it first hits. And it first hits this place, which is called the special face of the true, which is in every created being. And in that place, it's pre-intellect and pre-language. So it's a place before language takes place, because the sounds all come from here. So before this part, this breath, goes through the labials and the dentals and the gutturals, it's pre-language, it's before that. It's also pre-intellect, because the intellect has to wait for it to get processed before it can deal with it. So the intellect is waiting for it to become a word, which it can then deal with, or an image, which it can then assess and evaluate as an intellect. So this is a pre-intellect, pre-language place. And because it's pre-language, communication. So communication in English is to be able to send messages together, to commune, to be in the same place, to have in common. So when something is in common, they are already engaged and linked. And so when they're engaged and linked, There's no barrier between the sending and the receiving. So if there's no barrier between the sending and the receiving, there's no filter between the sending and the receiving, then we have instant, complete communication. That's how the heart works. And the heart works very slowly compared to the brain. It works in its own ways, and it works in a sense like the way a record player works. If you have the old style vinyl record player, and you go around this record player, all of it's in one place. Every song on that record is in one place, but you can't hear every song at the same time. You have to go through it like this. So if you have a piano keyboard in front of you, I will play you Beethoven's Fifth Symphony on the keyboard just like that. And I'll put every single note down like that. Wrong. Every note that's in Beethoven's Fifth Symphony has just been played. But now we understand that there needs to be a gap between them. That's what a melody is. A melody is, a melody has to be separate. You have to go la, la, la. You can't just have one sound. It has to be separated. So the same way that the separation is how the heart has to work separately. It has to listen to the melody. It can't listen to the bottom line of the song. You can't take all the notes, add them up, and at the end say, there are 500 notes that equal 433 megahertz, or whatever you're going to do. There's no bottom line to music. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sequential. So the heart works that way. So the heart has to go around and take its time. The intellect likes to go bottom line. So we just take everything and find out what the answer is. So, if you're hiking on a mountain, so the intellect says you walked up 1,000 meters and you came down 1,000 meters. So plus 1,000 meters minus 1,000 meters is 0. So the intellect says 0. You're where you start, you're where you began from. And you've gone 0 meters. Your breath stuff, I went 1,000 meters up and 1,000 meters down. You've got to add that together. You can't just subtract it and make it 0. So the heart has to go all the way up, all the way down. And the intellect just says, bottom line, 0.
Okay, then maybe we can move to the question that
Yes.
how is knowledge is not an act of creation but an act of reaffirmation in relation to discovering and uncovering.
So if I understand that correctly, the knowledge is that vinyl record. It's all there. And it's all there. There's nothing can be taken away or put in. It's just all there. And that is knowledge. Now, information is different. Information has to be seen one by one. Has to be seen musically or sequentially or in context. So in these stories, the knowledge is all one. So we can also understand that when the child comes out of the womb, that child knows everything because the child has come from that place where knowledge is one record player, one tablet, one notebook, and it's all there. The pen has already written everything because it's a circle. So a circle of knowledge which you begin, middle, and end. And in any circle, whenever you put the first dot down, you've already drawn the circle right there. You know where the circle is going to end. So if I put a notch and I'm going to draw a circle, the moment I put the notch there, you can quickly jump up and say, I know exactly where the circle ends. So how do you know where the circle ends? I haven't even begun drawing the circle because it's going to end right there. You're right. How do you know that? That's knowledge. You can have the entire thing right there. But the knowledge that comes to us is knowledge where we have to go through the beginning, middle, and end. We have to travel through all of this. So we travel through this knowledge. And Ibn the poet who says, I've not been outside of time, is saying, I've never not seen knowledge as a circle. I see all of it. And I've also lived my life, A to Z. So you live your life A to Z, and you can see the entire alphabet. So the alphabet is how we live. And so alphabet, Aleph, Ba, Hebrew Aleph, Ba. A, B, So alphabet means you're going from A to B. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to the end. And that's a circle. So when it's a circle, you have the entire alphabet on the circle, and you walk through it like an A, B, C, D, E. And so that's the story of our life, is that we have to process letters one by one. And so we are wherever we are. If I'm in the M's, and the next one is N, it's not the same as when someone's in D, and the next one is E. Everyone is exactly where they are, and exactly where they're meant to be. Not everyone is supposed to be on X, or P, or B. We all have to be where we are, and we all will be where we are. And what going from M to N is not the same as going from D to E. They're not the same at all. And so when you're saying, I'm going from D to E, and I'll say, well, I'm going from M to N, and this is the way it is. You should do that. You should do that. It doesn't make any sense. D to E is not the same as M to N. So we're all of us on the alphabet of life. This alphabet is Alif Ba. And also we know, at the same time we know, that the entire alphabet is contained from the beginning here, which is, and the end here, which is Hu. Hu. So Hu contains the entire alphabet. All of the sounds that will come from the treasure chest, and that is contained by the treasure. And the alphabet itself, all of the alphabet, can be seen in the A. All of the numbers can be seen in the 1. So every single number has a 1 in it. And if you take that 1 out, the number disappears. So if you have 593 and you take out the 1, 593 disappears, no longer exists. And every word, every letter has a vocal sound, in it. If it doesn't, it can't be articulated. You cannot pronounce a bunch of consonants with mute without a vowel somewhere in there. And so the vowel that's in there gives it life. So the entire alphabet is from the A. And so those who can see it see the entire alphabet, and they see the A. And they see the A and the B and the C and the D and the E. They see the A everywhere. And they see this A everywhere. And they see the 1 everywhere. So those who see this, they see the circle of knowing in everything that they see.
Okay, I think due to time constraint, maybe we can only afford to take this last question. Could you elaborate more on what does one mean by pre-intellect?
So pre-intellect is what happens before, when things that are coming to us that we are going to learn from. When it happens to us first, that's the pre-intellect phase. That's a wonderful question too. What about the language of the Quran? What about the language of the Quran? Did Ibn Arabi touch on the dimension of heart contained in the Quran? Language which directly touches the head and not just the mind. And this is what is sacred. Sacred, when we come close to the sacred, something happens to our brain waves. So when we come close to the sacred, something happens to our brain waves. And they go from alpha, which is very fast, they go through delta, gamma, and they go down to theta waves. They go down to very slow waves. And these slow waves are what we do when we encounter the sacred. So this and slowness is what we're talking about. The mode of the heart is that things are slow. So the brain moves very fast with the alpha waves. It can pick up things quickly and thinks it knows everything very fast. The heart works from theta waves and has to take things in its own speed, its own rhythm. And so the dimension of the heart is in Quranic language. It touches the heart, and it can also bypass the intellect. So it can be very much pre-intellectual. So that's why many people will have the experience of saying, I love to hear this recitation, even though I don't know what it means. I don't know what the translation is, but I love to hear it. If that's your situation, then you're hearing the heart, and your intellect is saying, I don't understand what's happening. That's fine. So let the intellect have its own thing. And what's maybe more powerful, more sacred, is when the brain gets involved and understands the translation, or when the heart gets involved and hears what's happening.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we have come to the end of our special lecture today. And one more time, I would like to express my utmost gratitude to our respected speaker today, Dr. Eric Winkle. And also on behalf of the organizer, I would like to apologize for any shortcoming throughout the session, especially due to we are facing some kind of sound problem throughout the session. So I would like to apologize to all of our audience. Inshallah, we will try better to rectify this problem in our next event. Okay, inshallah, we'll see you again on our next event on other interesting topic. So don't forget to follow our social media, FB, Instagram, and also subscribe to our mailing list to stay updated to our latest event. So with that, let us end our program. Okay, before that we have some token to be given to our panel today. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, with that we have come to the end of our program today. So let's end with tasbih kafarah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and have a nice day, everyone.